honey. What book that is? Oh, it's the scandalous book that just confirmed everything I was telling you guys about the 2024 election. How Harris couldn't win, how Obama didn't want to endorse her, how Biden didn't want to endorse her, how Obama wanted an open primary because he knew she wouldn't even win in the open primary. And that was his way of shaking her out. Oh, it's scandalous. It is so scandalous. I'm not here to say I told you so. But you know what I realized? I was thinking, I said, you know what, Janice? I have three great loves: the Bible, finance, and politics. And so I spend most of my free time listening to political commentary, reading political books, Bible, finance. On any given day, you walk up to me, I'm listening to a financial video or something on politics or something. I love politics, finance, money. And I realize that most people are not as in tune, okay? So a lot of people, especially Black people, we are emotional, right? When I said Obama didn't want to endorse her, she can't win, he want to open primary because he know he can't win. To some people, it's you're being emotional, like, what? She's a Black woman, how she can win? But see, President Obama, he's the kingmaker. He knows who to run. He knew that Kamala was not likable. Even when she tried to run for president, she didn't even make it to the first primary. And so what I realized is that a lot of us, we're emotional. Which is why this is probably be my last political video on this channel. I know I've said it a million times, probably not. But my Allegedly Janice is going to be my backup channel, and which is my backup channel, and it's going to be my political channel. So anybody comes over there must have a basic understanding of politics and stuff like that. So it's not emotional people. Like, people are being emotional because I said Kamala Harris cannot win the election. She's not winnable. She's not, okay? So in this book, it says that President Obama wanted Whitmer at the top of the ticket. Okay, Whitmer is the governor of Michigan, and he also wanted Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, as the VP. Personally, I think Wes Moore would be good for 2028. I don't know if he's going to run 2028. I hope he do run. I don't know. He might want to wait until JD Vance. I don't know. I'll see. I hope Wes Moore run for president in 2020. He's the governor of Maryland. But I'm thinking Wes Moore want to wait until after JD Vance, because JD Vance has a powerful force behind him. And I really don't see any Democrat beating JD Vance in 2028. But I would love to see JD go up against Wes Moore. I also think governor of Pennsylvania, what's his name? Beshear. I thought let me make sure I'm saying his name right. Glad I looked it up because I don't know where I got Beshear from. I think Josh Shapiro would have been a good candidate to run in 2024. But and they should have run him. Harris should have at least picked him as her VP, but I think he might just want to do his own thing. I don't think he want to ride on anybody's coattail. I thought he would have been good for 2024. He might run for 2028. So I think if Beshear run for 2028, he might be the candidate, but it's really early, but that's what I mean when I'm like, my mind is always thinking about politics. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay. I'm already thinking about 2028. Who's gonna run in 2028? Please let it be Kamala. I would love to see JD and Kamala because I really wanted to see that VP debate between JD and Kamala in 2024, and y'all took that from me. Y'all took that from me. But let's see what happened in 2028. So I realize that, Janice, these are things you love. Like, y'all be watching trash TV. I don't watch trash TV. I'm always reading, listening to something on my phone, politics, finance, Bible. I don't do Bible as much as I used to because I did that all my 20s and 30s, which is why I know the Bible so well. But now I spend a lot of my free time listening to politics or financial books. So I got the Scandalous book. So I realized that people are emotional, and that's why people unsubscribe from my channel because they just don't want to hear Obama didn't want to endorse her, and you're lying. What you mean? He black, she black. Obama's a kingmaker. He knows who to run and who not to run. Kamala is not likable. Kamala is not very competent. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's why Obama didn't want to run her, and he wanted an open primary. That's why he wanted Whitmer, because Whitmer is the governor of Michigan, a swing state. But she's quick on her feet. Okay? She's not rehearsed like Kamala Harris is rehearsed. That's why he wanted Wes Moore. He's also quick on his feet. The thing that I think that's going to hurt Wes Moore is Wes Moore was one of the governors. I'm looking at you sideways, Wes Moore. I understand, but I'm looking at you. That went to the White House and said, I have to go back and look at what he said. I think he kind of shied away from the camera. I'm going to go look at it. The thing that might hurt Wes Moore in 2028, if he runs, is if he said, I don't remember if he did, but I remember he was one of the governors at the White House that said after the debate that said Biden was competent. And that might hurt him. And so that's why I'm thinking, one of the reasons why I'm thinking Wes Moore might want to wait. He might want to wait until JD Vance, because I do believe JD Vance is going to win 2028 and 2032 or whenever. Okay. I think Wes Moore might be thinking about after 2 terms of JD Vance, then he can win, because then it's like a fresh start. It's not like MAGA is behind JD Vance and he has this powerful force, but JD Vance do 2 term, and then the next election is like, it's fresh. You're starting from the beginning. Okay. Anyways, girl, I'm just telling you, like, I'm so political of my mind, the way my mind works. But anyways, I got the book. I'm going to be reading this book on Allegedly Janice. I think I might read some on the channel, and then I might read and tell you what I read. But we have the authors. I'm going to go on somebody's channel, The Black Conservative. Love him. I think I gave him a donation already. If not, I have to give him a donation for this video. But on the Black Conservative channel, he had well, not him, but he did snippets of the authors talking about what happened in 2024. And I wanted to play some of those clips just so that I can say, I told you so. Okay. Not that I'm saying it, but I'm like, anyway. Let's hear some of the things they have to say. And if you were on my channel, you will remember these are some of the things I said. Okay. Black Conservative, shout out to Black Conservative. I love him. I listen to him every day. I listen to the Black Conservative every day. Absolutely love him. Awesome guy. And I'm going to make sure I donate to his channel.
Where Harris couldn't even make it really into the thick of the primary. And she also wasn't, I think most Democrats didn't feel like she was kind of a weakened vice president. She wasn't elevated by the Biden administration.
She was a weak vice president. Okay, let me go back and remind you. Remember, Biden did not want Harris to be the VP. Okay, he didn't want her, but he was forced in a corner to pick a Black woman. Okay. He didn't want her as VP, but he was forced in the corner. So he don't like her. Biden don't like Harris. Okay. But my thing, even if you had to pick a black woman, there was another black woman I was looking at, Sass. I think if I remember her name was. I was like, okay, let's say Biden has to pick a black woman. At least pick somebody that's competent and who can talk and who's not rehearsed and who doesn't have word style. But anyway.
Of go into this in the book, that she felt a little undermined by a lot of people inside the administration, that they didn't do a good job in elevating her. And so she kind of carried those insecurities with her. But I think it's really interesting how, and then you have also Biden's people kind of sabotaging her and telling donors, for example, that Kamala Harris couldn't be the nominee. She wasn't strong enough to be the nominee. So that was another fight that was playing out.
So she wasn't strong enough to be the nominee. They knew that. Obama knew that she's not strong enough to be the nominee.
Right. I'm sorry, Tara. No. They tried to save Biden. His team tried to save Biden, tried to make sure that he could breathe, that he could keep his head above water by trying to drown Kamala Harris in the weeks between the debate and when Biden actually got out. So for 3.5 weeks, she's taking hits behind the scenes from Biden's closest advisors. And by the way, some of them are dumb enough to have sent messages, like electronic messages that have been preserved. So, we were able to go back. We chose not to quote directly from some of the messages. We were able to go back and basically write what the basic content of those messages were to donors, to other allies, basically saying, if you keep pushing on Joe Biden, you're going to end up with Kamala Harris, and she's a total catastrophe and can't win. This is the president of the United States and his team just kneecapping the vice president, who, for I think most of us, it was clear all along that this was likely to end up in her hands as the candidate, and they're just doing all this damage to her for weeks and weeks internally.
Wait. So we got to talk about some juicy drama details from inside the Democrat Party, specifically
that's Black conservative. Love him. I listen to him every day. Love him.
The White House and the Kamala Harris campaign going into the 2024 election, because Democrat operative Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes had wrote a book about what happened leading up to the election, Kamala Harris losing the election to President Trump. Okay, starting with what happened with Joe Biden after the CNN debate and the calls for him to drop out. And at that point, it was kind of open season against Joe Biden, because now you had sitting Democrat Congress members and Democrat leaders basically floating their candidate, right, to replace Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris was not a top candidate among some of the leadership in the Democrat Party. In fact, some people.
She was not a top candidate in the Democratic Party. She wasn't. She was, child. Granted, if you go back and see the video I did, like, she was the rightful person to be, right? Because she was next in line. Because if anything had happened to President Biden, Harris would have become president. So technically she is next in line, but they didn't want her to be because they knew she couldn't win.
People in the Democrats, they wanted Gretchen Whitmer. However, the blacks, right, the blacks of the Democrat Party said, no, it has to be Kamala Harris because she is the
blacks in the Democratic Party.
Black woman, allegedly.
Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi want to win in this open primary? I mean, they must have had someone in mind.
That's a great question. Obama loved the governors, generally speaking, and we were told that he had a particular affinity for Gretchen Whitmer.
Okay.
Thought that she would be a good person. Whitmer, interestingly, had been floated, right after the debate as somebody, and actually during the hours of the debate, in a congressional women's caucus text chain, Hillary Scholten, the freshman from Michigan, while the debate's going on, text to the rest of the group, Whitmer for president. And then a bunch of CBC members on the same text thread start pushing back.
Congressional Black Caucus members.
Yeah, Congressional Black Caucus members start pushing back and say it's got to be Kamala Harris. This is like on debate night. No one's.
See, Black people are not thinking about we have to win. They're just thinking, no, it has to be a Black person. Obama doesn't think like that. Obama is a kingmaker. He's like, we want the strongest person to run to win against Trump. And it is not Kamala Harris. She is not the strongest person. In his mind, Whitmer and Westmore would have been the stronger ticket to run. And that's why he wanted an open primary, because she would not have made it through the primary. Okay?
Defending Joe Biden. They all think he's got to go, but suddenly you see this kind of white-black fault line break open in this text chat. Whitmer, her name is surfacing online, and Democratic leaders are talking about her, and she actually calls Kamala Harris, a few days after the debate, and basically says, "Look, I'm not running for president. I'm not competing with you." such a fascinating time with all of these people knifing each other in the back.
Okay, in which apparently you had Biden's team working behind the scenes to undermine Kamala Harris. Okay, because I guess Kamala was eyeing that spot, right? They were eyeing who was going to take over for Joe Biden. Everybody remembers that at that point after the CNN debate, the Democrats came out and told the truth about how Biden's not mentally fit. He's not cognitively capable of serving anymore. After gaslighting the American people for years about his declining mental condition. And
right, gaslight. I don't know how they're going to get over that in 2028. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the arguments are in 2028.
Again, apparently Joe Biden really didn't want to go, right? He didn't want to go so bad that, again, he was undermining Kamala Harris, okay? And one of the ways that he undermined Kamala Harris, even after she eventually ended up getting the nomination and his endorsement, is by telling Kamala Harris, hey, there's no daylight between me and you, aka you.
And on another video, she had to beg him for his debate, for his endorsement. She was on the phone begging him like, no, Joe, you have to endorse me. You have to endorse me. This is why he released his first statement. And everybody was like, wait, why didn't you endorse her? He didn't want to endorse her. Okay. Because he also knew she couldn't win.
You can't come out here and say anything negative about me and my administration, which kind of explains the reason why Kamala Harris, when confronted about what are the differences between you and Joe Biden, right? AKA, are you going to distance yourself from Joe Biden? She refused to do so. Take a look.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Were there any stipulations for this Biden endorsement? Like, did Harris have to do anything to get it?
We're not aware of any stipulations. I mean, other than beg him to make it fast, right? Like, and this is so for Biden.
Beg him.
It's kind of an FU, kind of a middle finger to Barack Obama. And we go deep in this book into the relationships between him and Obama.
I told you guys, did I not tell you that? Did I not tell you that when Biden came out and endorsed Harris, it was more like a FU, because Biden also knew Obama didn't want to endorse her. Obama didn't want to run Harris. Biden knew that. And so when he eventually endorsed her, it was a FU to Barack Obama, because Obama did not want Biden to run in 2016, which is why they run Hillary. Obama did not want Biden to run in 2020 because he knew he was a weak candidate. Those 20 extra million votes that showed up in 2020 for Biden, those envelopes that showed up for Biden 2020 that didn't show up for Harris in 2024. So when Biden endorsed Harris, it was the middle finger to Obama. Didn't I tell y'all that? I told you that. No, I told you.
And how frayed that is, and his terrible, what had been a great relationship with Pelosi that turns into this terrible relationship. But ultimately Biden would have looked silly telling the country that someone other than his vice president was the best person to be president. He would have looked ridiculous.
Right. And I'm guessing, though, that endorsement, there was an understanding that there would be no daylight between them, right?
Yeah, I mean, so that was an understanding that carried throughout their relationship. But what's interesting is it's different when he's telling her no daylight and she's his vice president. The vice president's not supposed to have daylight from the president. But he continued to tell her that after that handoff, and she's the candidate, and he's pretending like she still works for him. And she does as vice president, but not as a candidate. She's the hope of the Democratic Party. They're telling everybody the Republic is going to fall if Donald Trump is president. And Joe Biden's like, I don't want her to make me look bad by doing what she needs to do to win, which is to provide some daylight. And she continues to listen to him. He'd been telling her this for years as vice president. Interestingly, in 2008, Joe Biden, as a vice presidential candidate, hammered the hell out of John McCain, who's Barack Obama's opponent, by saying there was no daylight between McCain and the then president George W. Bush. So he knows how powerful that idea is at hamstringing a candidate who has a president of the same party in office.
Yeah. So again, this is extremely fascinating stuff. This confirms everything that we already knew. We already knew at the time in which it was happening, because it was clear and obvious there was a civil war going on in the Democrat Party, right? Because the Democrat Party is a party of narcissists, right? These are people who feel entitled and they're doing whatever they can for power, right? And this is part of the reason why I don't think I could ever be a politician, is because of stuff like this, right? This is why I'm just kind of like, nah, I'm not sure if being a politician is for me. But who knows? Maybe one day. I'm just saying that stuff like this it shows you what a lot of these politicians are in it for, right? They're in it for themselves, okay? Joe Biden was so prideful that he didn't allow Kamala Harris to freely admit that, hey, our administration is bad, that we made mistakes. And that's part of the reason why Kamala Harris lost, is because she refused to acknowledge the reality that, one, again, the administration is bad, that they made mistakes, which did not give an opportunity to talk about how she would fix the mistakes, how she would be different. And I think that's one of the main reasons why she lost, is because she could not clearly articulate if there was a difference between her and Joe Biden. And if there is, then what would she do differently? Right. I mean, the easy one would have been the border, right? But she couldn't even be.
She couldn't articulate. Word salad. Border czar never went to the border.
Straight with the American people about the current state of the border because she didn't want to make Biden look bad, right? And herself because she was the border czar at the time, right? So she also would look bad, which, I mean, by the way, think about the current border czar, Tom Homan versus Kamala Harris, right? I mean, the difference is night and day. So, you know, it's just hilarious to me because the egos of these individuals is part of the reason why Democrats collapsed, okay? And apparently, going into the election, Kamala Harris thought that she had a real shot at winning, okay? Even though she was gaslighting the country on basically everything, including the polls, right? For whatever reason, she thought.
I don't know how she thought she could win. I don't understand how Kamala Harris thought she could win 2024. I don't you know what kind of is I didn't bet anybody. I said, oh, Trump's gonna win, but I should have bet that she will not win not one of those swing states. I knew she couldn't win the swing states. I don't understand how she thought she could win. Barack Obama didn't think if you could win. If Barack Obama don't think you could win, you can't win.
Thought she had a chance to win, and when Trump won, Kamala Harris apparently was dumbfounded, right? Her and Tim Walz were shocked. They were shocked, which, by the way, Tim Walz is also coming out and saying that, well, he told Kamala Harris that he was a liability, right? Like, before he was picked, he told Kamala Harris, hey, I'm not that great, right? I tend to say stupid things, right? I tend to put my mouth a lot, and she picked him anyways, which really shows you the judgment of Kamala Harris, right? That she's not a very good judge of, you know, somebody's capabilities, right? Because clearly she picked somebody that was the male version of her, and she needed somebody that was basically the exact opposite of her. That's what she needed, but she literally picked the worst guy possible. So yeah, apparently they were dumbfounded when Trump won.
Why do you want people to read the book? The first sell is the shock that the ticket Walz and Harris felt on election night. What do you know?
Well, we know that they were shocked, completely surprised by
how. I don't know. Oh my God, I don't know. I don't understand. I'm shocked that they thought they were shocked. I don't understand it.
the events that unfolded on election night. They thought they were going to win, and you know, when they were told that they were losing in the final hours and that they had lost, there was complete silence and shock, and they were just dumbfounded by what was happening. But Chris, I think people should read this book because John and I are journalists in the truest sense. We call balls and strikes. We are not one-sided. This is a book that Democrats can learn from. This is a book that Republicans will enjoy because you can watch the train wreck. Everyone gains from reading this book.
I like the sell. The role of Biden, Amy, there are two schools. One is he was resistant to the change and stayed resistant throughout. The second was he was resistant to the change, and then he said, all right, I'm going out, but it's going to be Harris, and that he didn't want a primary. What did you find out?
Yeah. Well, so we know that there is a secret meeting going on in the final minutes before President Biden drops out at the time. It's at the Naval Observatory. It's in Kamala Harris's pool house there. Her advisors, her closest advisors are gathered, and they're talking about what happens when and if Joe Biden drops out. We find out that he does drop out there, and one of her aides rushes in to be with her. Biden doesn't want to immediately endorse her. He wants to kind of let the moment sink in and then endorse her a couple of days later. And she says, "No, I need your endorsement right now."
He didn't want to endorse her.
Do you believe which story do you believe more? That the Pelosi and the party said it has to be Harris, or that Biden wanted to pick who it would be?
I think that Pelosi and the party, they were very squeamish on Harris going in.
I told you. They did not want her. Pelosi, they didn't want her. None of them did, except for the black people. Because it's about color. It's not about, are you a good candidate to run? And the Kingmakers knew she wasn't a good candidate to run.
We have reporting in the book that says he goes, she goes. I think a lot of people wanted a primary, and but it was a little too late for that.
Yeah, I had a guy trying to convince me that it was Obama and Ron Klain had picked them. Now, what did you find out about Obama's role in this?
Obama was very quiet, obviously, but he was talking to Nancy Pelosi. We found out there were a couple of calls happening within those 24 days. He was, trying to take the pulse of people. He was in listening mode, too. He was talking to his former partner and asking what his plan was. And so he was very involved, but behind the scenes. You didn't see him so much. And in this book, we report what was exactly happening.
Yeah, and I had heard what you have here, that Obama had floated the governor of Michigan and the governor of Maryland. And when I heard that at the time, Whitmer and Westmore, I thought they should have flipped it, or I thought it should have been Shapiro and he. But of course, that's what would have happened if they played out the process. Did you get in?
Right. That would have been what would have happened if there was a primary. If there was a primary, I think Shapiro would have been the top of the ticket. Okay, because Shapiro, he is good. Like, I like him. Okay, he's the governor of Pennsylvania. That I love Shapiro. So I thought if there was a primary, Shapiro would have gotten. And if Westmore went in, he probably would have been VP. But I don't know if Westmore, I think my husband said this is his first term as governor. I don't remember. But that's interesting, right? That is interesting.
Any particular insight into what made the short primary or the open convention an impossibility?
It was just too short of a time frame. And, you know, President Obama was calling people at the time. He called people like Jim Clyburn to find out where he was. Jim Clyburn knew that call was coming, and he said, okay, I have to quickly get behind Kamala Harris. And that's sort of how that unfolded. And I think President Obama rather wanted to kind of see how this all unfolded. He didn't want his finger on the pulse, but he also didn't think that Kamala Harris could win.
Wow.
He also did not think Kamala Harris could win. I just wanted to tell you guys that I told you so. I mean, I hate to keep saying it. President Obama did not think Kamala Harris could win. Because he's not dealing with emotions. He's dealing with facts and numbers and likability, how quick you are on your feet. And also, he knew she really didn't work her way to the top. Allegedly.
So basically, we're being told a story that we already knew, right? We don't need to be insiders, right, to know that, okay, this is what happened, right? It was obvious considering what was happening at the time. Obama and Pelosi and all of them, they staged a coup against Joe Biden, right? They pushed him out, okay? And Joe Biden decided that, you know what, he's going to pick the Democrat Party nominee by endorsing Kamala Harris, closing the door on a primary, which is something that Obama and Pelosi and others wanted, right? Because they didn't want Kamala Harris. Nobody wanted Kamala Harris. Even Biden didn't want Kamala Harris, but he knew that that was the only path, right, for him, okay? And basically, he ended up undermining Kamala Harris from the get-go because Kamala could not come out here and to talk bad about the administration, so she had to gaslight the American people on the administration, and she couldn't really explain exactly how she would be different because at the end of the day, she had to go out there and say that, hey, me and Biden are the same and that you're going to get more of the same. And that was just not a winning message considering how people were fed up with the Biden administration. So, you know, it's just pretty hilarious to think about how the Democrats got themselves into this problem. Right now, fast forward 2 to 3 months into President Trump's second administration, the Democrats are in complete and total chaos, right? They have no leadership whatsoever, okay? They are letting the far left wing of their party basically take over because they have no direction. So they're doubling and tripling down on exactly why they lost, right? On the things that led Democrats to losing, they're saying, no, let's do more of that, right? Tim Walz is saying we need to be more woke. We need to have more open borders, right? We need to embrace more of the insanity that led to them losing in the first place. I mean, it's really fascinating stuff, okay? The time that we're living in. From a political perspective, historians are going to look at this time and say, wow, there was some very fascinating things happening at this point in our politics. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in regards to the direction the Democrat Party is going to go in. But in my opinion, I think as of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to go in a good direction for them in the long term. But we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
There you have it. What do you think about what was said? It just confirmed what I had said. So I'm going to be reading this book on allegedly Janice. I'm going to read live, and then I'm going to read and tell you what was said. Because sometimes when I'm on the train, I read. I take the train. That's how I get my exercise. And I walk to take the train, and then walk from the train to work. And so I'm going to read while I'm on the train and stuff like that. But I want to know what you think about everything that was said. What you thought about what I said. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Will you get the book? I'm going to link it below. If you want to get the copy, please get it from my link to show that I'm sharing the book. Okay. I love you. I appreciate you. Again, this is not about Donald Trump. This is not about this video is not about Donald Trump. It's about how Obama and the powers that be did not want Kamala Harris to run, because they knew she could not win. In another video, it's reported that, and I'm going to find that Biden says she's a catastrophe. Nobody likes her. She can't win. She's not I forgot the word that he used. And how President Obama wanted an open primary because that was his way of shaking Kamala Harris out, because he knew if there was an open primary, he could not win. And so she could not win. And to shut down the open primary, Biden gave Obama the middle finger and said, F you, I endorse her. Okay. And Clyburn, who's one of the people who told Biden, you better pick a black woman, or else we gonna tell black people not to vote for you, and you know Democrats cannot win without the black vote. He jumped on and said, I'm endorsing her too. And so it's like Obama was kind of stuck, and that's why it took him 5 days to do that fake endorsement that he did. I want to know, are you going to read the book? I will be reading it on Allegedly Janice. Be sure to subscribe to Allegedly Janice and this channel. I love you. Talk to you later.